Hi everyone, welcome back. Welcome to the advanced topics of Sveltekit. And in this video, we are going to explore a couple of topics with some good demo examples. Let's say the Sveltekit forms use enhance, how to use the store with the Sveltekit, and how to do the API integration from the server side components. Let's say you are writing a simple form, you submit the form to the server component, and then from the server component how you can make an actual API call to external APIs, get the data, and then populate that data back into your Svelte store. And then session management using cookies and GWT token, and how you manage the session in the Sveltekit side. Okay, so let's see, this is a simple form. We are going to talk about first example is how we write the forms and how we can use Jode for the form validation. So this is a simple register schema. I'm going to go through this example because this is simple and real quick. Here, let's say this is a simple form. I will just close all these uh, boxes, and here this is simple form. And what we are doing in this form is we are just doing a method post, right? So what will happen is it is going to hit the default action, and the default action we have defined in the page.server.ts. This is the default action, and we have the event object, and from the event object we can extract what you are submitting to the form, right? Like username, password, email, course, or student ID, or whatever. And then you can use Jode. Jode is a library npm module that can be used to validate a JSON object, a simple JSON object. Let's say you are getting a JSON object anywhere, either from the one service to another service, from client side to the server side you got an object, and now you want to validate that object, that object contains the student ID as a number, student name is a string with a particular length, password should follow the some regex pattern, all those validations, email should be a proper email, regex, all these validations can be done through the schema. So here you specify a schema and all the validations on the name. String minimum 1, name is required, maximum 64. Here we can just make it a little more, 8, and password minimum 8, right? And the password confirm, same validation criteria. Same you can do for the email, right? Here you can see these are the inbuilt methods available, and when these criteria are not satisfied, it will throw these messages. These are the custom messages. Email must be a valid email address. If the max length is not satisfied, min length is not satisfied, if the you are not passing email as a string, you just pass the some number, so email is required. These are the custom messages. Okay, and terms, it should be a required error, and it should be a enum either on and off, and then you can validate it. So this is a schema object, and on the schema object you can just say super refine or safe validate, or there are some methods, I think safe parse, safe parse async, right? What these will do is these will validate your payload first of all, and then it is giving you whatever the output JSON object. I mean, it will validate. If there is an error, it will return the error. Otherwise, it will give you the same payload object, and you can just do some more validations if there are still some issues like password comparison. Old password, I mean, the current password and retype password should be same. Then you can manually populate some more errors in the context. So it's like really powerful library to do the validation. There are other libraries also like Yup, I know, Jod, I know. So these are some of the libraries which are used for the payload validation. Yup is used with the React and other forms, reactive forms, Formic. Jod is just a simple independent library to validate a payload, validate a JSON object. Now that JSON object can be anywhere in the forms, in the client server communication, any kind. And here in the default action, first we will get all the properties in the form data. Once we get all the properties, we can validate it. First of all, we will just do is register schema.parse. We will just do the parse, right? And once you do the parse, you are just passing this JSON object. If result is okay, then it will return it. Otherwise, it will go inside errors. Let's say if you're not satisfying any particular criteria, then you will get all the form data and the errors. So it will be we have to flatten the errors because the errors are all nested. So if you just try to see what we are getting inside error, if we are not fulfilling a criteria, then we can see that right? This is kind of error object you received, a very big one, right? So what we are going to do is, here inside these errors object, we will just flat all of these and then we'll capture all the messages. This is what we are doing. We flatten all of these and we got the field errors, and then field errors are assigned as an errors. So you can see these are errors we have received, errors or issues. This is your job error, these are the field errors, and you will capture all of these together and you will return that in the errors object. So if we just see what we are getting inside errors, also we can see after doing flatten, because this error object we are returning to front end. Let's remove console.log for now. Okay, you can see it's a really nice representation of validation, name, email, password, and this object we are returning from here errors, and data is whatever the data you have passed. Obviously data is the whatever you have submitted to the server, same I'm returning. So data and errors. Now with these two things I can do anything. I can just do show some messages on the front end and can show if the form.data is there, because if it is getting success, then success is like this, if you will just get the result. So we can just update our form and we can just do these assertions like, okay, form.errors are there, that means form.errors.name is there, change the class, and form.data.name, I mean value will be whatever you typed is coming back. Form.errors.name is there, then just print the form.error.name first index of name property, form.errors, this object dot name, and 0th index, name is required, right? So if form.errors.name is there, then just get the 0th index. Similarly, form.email errors.email is there, get the 0th index. So it's really nice and clean way of doing validation. There are other libraries are also available in the Sveltekit now at the client side or server side. Server side validation is you will do JOD, YUP or something. At client side also, before even submitting the form, we can write a event handler here, like on submit you can add an event handler, or use enhance before even submitting the form. First validate the payload here and then only send the data to the server. So there are many ways of doing it, but the form actions are really powerful because you are doing things at the server side. So you are not worried about client side JavaScript in that case. Okay, so form.data.email, similarly same properties. If form.errors.password is there, that means there is some error, show it. Now let's say I'm entering things, okay, .com, terms and conditions, so it is submitted. Now what payload we are getting in the success, we are getting this same JSON object in the return, but not the errors object, right? If there is no errors object, then we are good, our form is valid. We are just getting only this data from this result set, right? We are just printing it. I mean, we don't even need to return anything. This form object we are getting because this is a form object which this actions are returning. This is the page data, you can say, and from the form dot data, nothing, no error, right? So that is being received and you are doing the form validation. So let's talk about other concept also here. Let's say the page, let me write any other, let's say the movie. Here we are writing the page server.js or page server.ts, whatever, let's say JS function, right? So the load function does exactly what it sounds like. It loads the data into the components. It is exporting this data and it is putting this data inside this component, and here we are getting this load function data. Load functions can be of server side and shared. Server shared means it can be a client side, it can be a server side, or only server side, because load function you can also define in the page.ts. Do we have anywhere like page.js? It's, if you are putting a load function, this runs on both server side and the client side, and whatever you are putting inside page.server.ts, it runs only on the server side. And what we are doing from this load function, you can do a lot of things. You can return a data, You can also return some status code like this, return status 302 and redirect and your location of redirection, right? So load function can do this, and whatever you are loading inside this, that can be used again at the child level components. Let's say id, and here I'm just doing plus page dot svelte, and I'm doing plus page dot ts. I mean, we don't need a load function here. Whatever the data is available in this page dot svelte, same data you can capture at the child level component also. It's easy, right? So the data gets inherited, accessing the load function data from the components. This is how we are accessing, but you can also do the data inheritance. That means whatever the data available was exported through this page server.ts and available here, that is also available in the child component. So if I talk about simple hierarchy, then you might understand it better. Let's say the Pokemon. Here inside page.svelte or page.ts, I'm exporting some data that is available at the Pokemon level. Inside slug, inside this page.svelte also we can access the same data, like same as using page options, export data, let export data, if you haven't defined any load function at that component level. So this is how a child route will inherit all its parent route load function data. Also, if you have a layout load function, all the child route will inherit the data from there also. Let's say we have a layout.svelte. We don't have a load function here. Like, let's say I create a plus layout.ts function here. And I create a load function here, which is doing nothing but returning some data to me. Right, let's say Terminator. So this data can be accessed throughout all the children of this layout. Okay. Now, another thing is we talked about how we are doing with the hooks, like how the hooks really works. We also discussed about it, like hooks are used to check the sessions. If session exists and it doesn't, it will either redirect you or it will just resolve it. And hooks we create inside src, and how we do it is hook.server.ts, I guess, hooks.server.ts, and the basic syntax for this is simple resolve, right? So this is the events and this is resolve. So what we are doing here is through the events we can check a lot of things. We can actually check the particular URL, we can check the cookies, we can do a lot of stuff here. Through the event object we can access the cookies, like event.cookies.get. Here you will get the cookie name. And what you can actually do once you get the cookie name, because this hook.server.ts will execute on every page load, and this is going to run only at the server side. So you can also do the data validation here. So I mean, the handle hook is something which we really use in Sveltekit application. It's core. The handle hook act like an interceptor for all the requests that are made to your application. So it's important. It's like an interceptor, and it just resolve the request to a response and return it to the other part of the application. So let's say you read the cookies and you will resolve this event. So this event will be available to your load function, to your form actions, everywhere. So it is a server side hook. This is how we are defining inside source, and the default behavior is if all the checks passed, you will just resolve it. Otherwise, if you say cookie is not there, you will redirect it, all those stuff you will do. Let's say what we are doing here is redirect we need to get from Sveltekit. Let's say if you get the auth token, if auth token is not there, you can redirect from here, or you can actually customize the response. So what you can do is, let's say these are the different use cases. You get the response object, and now on the response object you can customize the some particular header. response.set header, and content type also. So because every route will hit this is an interceptor, and this response you can change the behavior of the response. You can append the header once you intercept it. So you can also use the locales that we have already done, and this is really a fun, I mean interesting part of this is because we want to validate only admin routes, let's say. So what I'm doing is a simple code snippet to understand it. I'm checking auth token is there inside the cookies, and only for the admin routes. If the event.url.path name starts with admin, only admin routes, then only it will execute. I'm checking auth token. No, if no auth token, redirect to login. Otherwise, validate the auth token. If you got the user, and this is server side, so you can write a code to validate the user object and all. And then once you get the user object, you can set the locales. This is important part. When you are setting the locales, these locales you can access throughout your application because you are setting it inside events. So whatever you are putting inside events can be accessed inside your load functions, can be inside of form actions, everywhere you can access it. And inside your load function somewhere, let's say movies page server.ts, let's say here I'm creating plus page.server.ts. What we will do, we can access the user ID here. That will tell us, okay, user is logged in, and do whatever you want to do. Okay, that's it in the just a basic. My whole plan is to cover up the concepts of a Sveltekit and then do the admin dashboard in the Sveltekit.